As a comprehensive strategic partner, China firmly supports the Nigerian government in leading its people on a development path in line with its national conditions. China opposes any country interfering in other countries' internal affairs under the pretext of religion or human rights and opposes the frequent use of sanctions and threats of force.
China's support for Nigeria is more than diplomatic solidarity. It has economic aspects to it, as Nigeria is a key partner in China's Key Belt and Road Initiative, or the BRI, which aims to connect Asia, Europe and Africa through a corridor resulting in heavy investment by Chinese companies in Nigeria's infrastructure, energy and mining projects. A report suggests Nigeria is one of the top African destinations for direct Chinese foreign investment in sectors like oil, natural gas and solid minerals, including lithium and gold. In May 2025, the Chinese ambassador in Abuja met with the Nigerian Minister of Solid Minerals Development. After the talks, he announced that mining cooperation between China and Nigeria has achieved remarkable progress. According to reports, Chinese firms have invested over $1.3 billion in Nigeria's lithium processing sector since September of 2023. These investments are aimed at diversifying Nigeria away from oil and developing green energy-related minerals. Now, what triggered this Chinese reaction was Trump's accusation against the Nigerian government of failing to protect Christians. He threatened to halt aid and launch military action against Nigeria. He ordered to map out a plan of attack after his administration put Nigeria into the countries of particular concern list over alleged religious freedom violations. Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has rejected these allegations. But this has not deterred the Trump administration. The White House has said that Trump is watching the situation in Nigeria very closely.
As the president stated, Michael, if the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the United States will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria and may take action to wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities, especially against innocent women and children. I don't have any further announcements on that for you today, but I can assure you the President of the United States is watching this situation unfold very closely, as is our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio.
With Trump's threat to Nigeria and China's latest intervention, the tensions in the African continent have put two global powers in confrontation, while Nigeria finds itself at the center of a geopolitical tug-of-war.
All right, so it has been confirmed that the Chinese government is now supporting Nigeria, thereby warning US not to interfere on the issues that Nigeria is facing. Oh yes. Now, after watching this video, I sat down and I began to think, honestly speaking, and as I'm thinking, I began also to pray. You know why I was praying? I said, God, please, don't allow these people to use Nigeria as another country of experiment. Oh yes, because this is exactly how we started in Ukraine, where some NATO members, were supporting Ukraine, telling Ukraine not to agree that they will support him. And some people were supporting Russia. And today, how far? Where are those people supporting Ukraine? Where are they? NATO, where are they? This is exactly what they want to do with Nigeria again. Now, in the case of Nigeria, some European countries has also come out to say, no, there's no genocide in Nigeria. Nigeria is good. They are only facing small issues. I had some Congress member in Canada, I say, no, there is genocide in Nigeria. And so this is how the debate will be going. Will be going. Before you know it, one country will strike and the other will follow. And before you know it, Nigeria will become another country of experiment for them, where they will test whatever they have built. So I'm praying that this thing that is, rumoring, that it doesn't come to pass in Nigeria, because it will not be a safe place. Nigeria is not a European country. We don't have anything. If this thing starts now, we don't have anything to defend ourselves. No air defense, nothing. And we just did. Only God, they save us. So please, I'm pleading, I'm begging that this thing should not happen. Oh yeah, some of us may not understand. Some of us may not understand until it happens. But we don't pray that anything bad happens. However, We want the terrorists to be wiped out. Oh yes, because somebody that is killing his fellow member doesn't deserve to live. Oh yes, all in the name that you are fighting for God. I don't know where that ideology came from. How can you fight for God? How can you fight for your creator? How? Anyway, I will not allow you to listen to the analysis they gave on China's television because they took time to analyze this. And I think all this boils down to, how the government is managing this country. Honestly, it's just unfortunate. So please, I want to beg you now to spend a little time and listen to the analysis they gave on China's television.
This country, may God save this country. We have now turned the narrative into North versus South, which is not supposed to be. We have now done propaganda to an extent where it's now us versus them. No. Are people dying across every part of the country? Yes. Are Northerners, Southerners dying? Yes. Are Nigerians dying? Yes. Has this government done well at stopping the killings? No, they can do more. Because Trump has talked about it now, then there's been a lot. Like I've always said, we're a sovereign nation. Nobody can come in and invade our country without our say-so. We have seen security forces said, okay, we can get American support. But the question is, how can the problem end, the problem of killing? There's a popular adage from where I come from. They say a man sees a snake, a woman kills it. As long as the snake is dead. Please, let's take this matter out. And for us that we're so delusional now to think China loves you so much, with due respect, China is speaking for its own interests. Out of the 270,000 tons of rare earth oxide, rare earth metals, China mined over close to 13,000 tons from Nigeria. They are the ones shipping our rare earth metals easily away. So if America is talking about strikes, which I don't believe, which I just think Trump is bluffing largely, there's about strikes in the area where China is mining their rare earth metal. You think China will just look and be saying they should come? So when we are acting like China loves us so much, China is talking about its own interest, or the EU that is talking in our house of board. You think they love you so much? EU that in this country close to 44 billion is going out. There's a particular refinery out of Rotterdam that out of Nigerian crude and everything, they make close to 9 billion. Everybody's talking about their own interest. But when are we going to have leaders that are in the interest of Nigerians? That's the problem we've always had in this country. Because you can see other countries fighting for their own interests. We are always constantly about the interests of our politicians that steal and exploit us. So it's a very sad dilemma that we are currently facing now. And please, we should not fall for all this love here and there and all of that. But quickly, a point I really want to make that is very important is I believe the Nigerian army can stop this killing. Is it not the same that this our country is a great country? I am so proud to be a Nigerian. This was the same Nigeria that set up the ECOMOG force. Over 70% of the troop of the ECOMOG force was from Nigeria. That worked over 7 years to bring parity and peace back to Liberia and to Sierra Leone. Nigeria expended $15 billion of its money on ECOWAS. As at that time, if you adjust that money from inflation between 1991 to 1997, from 1997 to about 2001, if you adjust that $15 billion for inflation, Nigeria spent in today's money is over $30 billion to restore peace and parity to West African countries. That same country is great enough to solve its own problem. We need leadership.
All right. Okay.
Nigerian newspapers this morning are reporting the passing of General Abdullahi Mohammed. General Abdullahi Mohammed, the papers report, both online majorly, that he has passed at the age of 86. He was a distinguished military officer, dedicated public servant, and he served for the better part of his life Nigeria diligently, steadfastly, and with a great sense of patriotism. He was governor of I think, Plateau State, Benue Plateau State, as it then was, 1976, 1979. He was Director General of the National Security Organization, the NSO, before the name was changed and it became the National Security Agency, the NIA, the Nigerian Intelligence Agency. He was, I think, Chief of Staff to General, President Olusegun Obasanjo from 1999 to 2007. He also served President Musa Yaradua, as Chief of Staff. He was NSA under General Abubakar Abdul Salami. So you have there a man who served his country diligently. So it's a major loss for Nigeria that such a distinguished general has passed. But we thank God for his life and, for the fact that he had the benefit of making his own contributions, distinguished contribution to the making of Nigeria. Now, as for the PDP, we're now told that the Court of Justice Akintola has now given a ruling to say that the convention November 15 to 16 can hold. I had said, I think earlier this week, that the PDP can go back to the court, seek, go on appeal perhaps, ask for an affidavit of urgency for the ruling of the Court of Justice James Omotosho to be upturned. But what they have now done is to go to the Oyo State High Court. Now, some people just looking at it may say, this is like forum shopping. The courts are of equal jurisdiction. But the issue, the rule, is that where the equities are different, where the subject matter is different, where the persons making the application are also different, then, of course, what will apply will be the rule of lex posteriori, or what is called res judicata. So in this case, the difference on all of those matters that I've identified, the person who went to Oyo State High Court is different. The subject matter is different. The parties, they are also different. So I imagine that perhaps it is now that Oyo State High Court ruling, which is the latest. That's what I was referring to when I said lex posteriori. That will take effect. However, the other party can also go on appeal. But the residual point is about, the fact that, what is the party? The PDP is in trouble. I don't know whether they are still in ICU, as Senator Gabriel Suswam said, but the party is truly troubled. But we'll see what happens hereafter. The other camp can also quickly rush to court. So it's an unfolding drama. The next thing about the Minister of Foreign Affairs speaking in Berlin, in Germany, with his German counterpart, saying that, look, the Nigerian constitution does not allow religious persecution. And that is the thing that everyone should note. And I think he's right. Section 10 of the 1999 Constitution says that there shall be no state religion in any part of this federation that is called Nigeria. Section 38 says, look, as a Nigerian, you have the freedom of thought, conscience, and belief. Section 39 says that you have the freedom of expression. Section 40 says that, look, you can associate with people, freedom of assembly. Section 42 says that there shall be no discrimination against anybody in this environment on the basis of faith, religion, or belief, or circumstances of birth. So he's very right to quote the Constitution. But you may then argue that, look, the reality is different. But I get the more important point that Minister Tuga was making, which is that, look, nobody should attempt to turn Nigeria into an equivalent of Sudan, where religion and tribal sentiments, prevail and determine relations within the country. However, the point to make is that religion as well as ethnicity are two of the major principal centrifugal forces in the Nigerian question, at the heart of the national question, often exploited by politicians when it is convenient for them. So, and that is why you find this, impression that, look, religion is a problem in Nigeria, and then the established Western media mind, that look, Nigeria is divided into north to south. After all, the ACF was here, the leaders, board of trustees, and they were saying, look, those categorizations are not just as exact. However, we face the challenge of the characterization by President Donald Trump. And now we have China coming forward and saying, look, the US should not label Nigeria. We have the EU also supporting, the Nigerian government. Look, the rule in international diplomacy is to make friends and to pursue your own interests and to have allies within the international space. China is a major rival of the United States. So we'll be expecting too much if we think that China will take the same position as the United States when it comes to international relations. They're not taking the same position on Russia-Ukraine. It's not the same position on artificial intelligence. It's not even the same position that both countries take in terms of geopolitics. Now, America has tried to push back to say China cannot dictate their foreign policy. But I think it's a good development for Nigeria that we have China speaking up as a friend of Nigeria and saying, look, you cannot dictate to Nigeria as to how Nigeria runs its affairs. And the EU also, showing solidarity. After all, the other day, the EU just, approved some amount for pharmaceuticals, for local production in Nigeria. So it's good to see that Nigeria is not isolated, and that there are countries and regions that are willing to speak up against Trump's unilateralism, against Trump's hypocrisy, and Trump's mischaracterization of religious relations in Nigeria. So that's the context of that. Now, the Nigerian government says is going to borrow, domestic borrowing, right?
Yes.
1.5 trillion. The budget for the year 2025 is 59.9 trillion. Now, at the time, the government said there was a deficit of, I think, 1.1 trillion. Now, what the Tinubu administration is now trying to do is to fix that deficit by asking for 1.5 trillion domestic borrowing. And the Senate, having referred the matter to the committee level, says that this money will be used to pay local contractors. Now, the classical argument by people who know this subject much better, because it's their daily fare, is that, look, borrowing is not the problem. It is what you do with the money. And they argue, all these local contractors, we have had issues with these local contractors in this country. Local contractors are the problem that we have been discussing since Monday about, is it the NFF, Nigeria Football Federation, yes, about the building of a stadium, yes, either in Ugborodo or in Benin Kebbi. These contractors abandon the job. So who are these contractors who are to be paid? What we can ask for is transparency. What we can ask for is accountability. And also, the same Senate treating the matter says that the Senate of the Federal Republic, the representatives of the people, are now going to probe railway projects under General Muhammadu Buhari because of suspected lack of transparency and accountability. Maybe there is a lot more that they need to probe, not just railway projects, because what the Nigerian people are asking for is basically transparency and accountability. And accountability, even if they say they are borrowing, domestic borrowing 1.5 trillion that they want, we would like to know what they do with it. And what is the item by item content that this money will be spent upon, so that all of us including those of us who sit here every morning raising questions, can follow item by item. And I think that the desktops, the box tops are the desk of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, so that he can allay the fears of people who say borrowing all the time. And I agree with the view that we have even lost count. But if you have proper documentation, we can track it. And you have civil society groups like Budget that we should encourage, like SERAP that we should encourage, like Enough is Enough that we should encourage to continue to help, the Nigerian people to track all of these details.
Yes, the key word is accountability, and that's that's what is lacking a lot of times, especially from the view of the Nigerian people, and also the trust as to whether or not the National Assembly, the Senate in this instance, will do its proper job of oversight and not just rubber stamp. What we've accused this 10th Senate of again and again is the fact that when it comes to oversight and checks and balances for the executive, it seems to not exist. And so what Nigerians are calling for, as Dr. Batu rightly mentioned, when it comes to borrowing to fund infrastructure, it's not bad for the economy. It's actually in good faith. However, the most important thing is that what the monies that are being borrowed is not used, corruption or looted or used for frivolous projects, but actually is used in wealth creating projects so that the people of Nigeria can actually benefit. And so this is a call to the Nigerian Senate to ensure that due diligence is done, and also for the Nigerian people to keep an eye on the processes and ensure that when reports are released, we follow up on this. I think the challenge, of course, with probes, like has been mentioned for the railway infrastructure, is that usually what we've had in the past with probes like this, whether it be with the NDGC, with the NNPCL, is that we have announcements of investigations and committees and panels set up. But that's where it ends. There's usually no outcome or consequences where there's an infraction that has been noticed. And that's something else that we ought to hold, that we hold the Senate accountable for, is that beyond announcing, big announcements like this, we want to probe CCTV cameras in Abuja, we want to probe railway infrastructure, is not just announcements, but actually going all the way with their probe and coming out with an outcome, and where possible, consequences should occur. Now, let me move on to the PDP. Just a quick statement on that, because one of their chieftains has reacted, saying that there are no factions. They still maintain the fact that there are no factions in the PDP. It's just agents of the opposition who are trying to destabilize the PDP, and that they will continue to feel. This is coming from one of the chieftains who'd reached out this morning following the report by Mary Chinda, and saying that the PDP is on the way to victory and they have their acts together. But I believe that beyond, the statements from the PDP's quarters is the action. The taste of the pudding is in the eating. Is what we actually see. It's not what is being said. What will happen, time will tell. Whether or not the convention will happen. Number two, whether there will be a factional convention, a parallel convention happening by this, people who are said to be seeking to destabilize the party, and would be critical as a foundation to whether or not the PDP would survive as the main opposition party in Nigeria as we speak. Hopefully, this will happen. But I think this also speaks, when you talk about the conflicting judgments, about the state of our judiciary. A lot has been said about that, where, judgment is obtained in one court and a dissenting judgment, or a different judgment is obtained in another court. And this is what the NJC needs to look into. We've called on this a number of times on this table, so that politicians don't cherry pick or shop for judgment based on which court would favor them or not. But as it stands, according to the court judgment in Ibadan, the PDP convention would hopefully hold this month. Now, finally, on the big topic that has been, and so very well so, is the response by the administration. The Minister of Information came out to say that the president is calm and he's not, elofo kombale, as he would say. That means that go and, settle down. No cause for alarm. That was what he had said earlier on during his campaign. But truly, there is cause for alarm. And this is not just based on the call from President Trump. It is actually based on the calls by many Nigerians, and has been echoed by a number of people it is quite sad that it had to take an international voice for our own government to listen to us as to the incessant killings by terrorists, bandits, and also kidnappers. But the good news here is that finally, hopefully, action will be taken. A number of analysts have come out with solutions, what can be done, what ought to be done. I don't think it's a lack of ideas that's the challenge. It is the will to actually carry out what the options available to the government and the administration is. And with this push and pressure from the international community, perhaps Nigerians will begin to see reprieve from 15 years of terrorist oppression and killings on a scale that should be mind-boggling at the very least, in Nigeria. And so that's what we're looking forward to. The Minister Tuga has said that there's religious freedom guaranteed by the Constitution of Nigeria. We often say that it's not for a dearth of laws and constitutionally guaranteed rights in Nigeria. It is the implementation. Do we not have the constitutionally guaranteed rights to peaceful protests? Yet do we not see that being challenged on a daily basis?
All right. So, what do you make of it? Drop your comment in the comment section, all right? I will see you in my next video. Thank you very much, and may God continue to bless you.